Good morning. This is the Blaine World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and get more information and find out about previous shows and future shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. Uh, I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on news and organizations by people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Vicki Lamberth, who's the official title of Victoria
is managing artistic director.
among other things you do, at Hendersonville Theater. And welcome aboard, Vicki. You can wave to all your friends and,
Hi.
and some friends who are watching us. And she mentioned that Victoria is just this amazing woman who has, I think, I don't know, single-handedly, Victoria, but in large part turned around your theater. And what's so cool about what you do is you do like everything there. In other words, talk about the role of the artistic director, your daily job.
So right now, besides the artistic direction, which would be overseeing the programming for the theater, I also do I'm doing the management side of it as well, which means that I'm overseeing staff, the financials, basically running the theater on the top level of the day-to-day operations. We have a board of directors who are really the top of the theater, but overseeing the day-to-day operations would be my job.
Now, had you ever done that before?
Not as big of a role as this has been. I've done it on a smaller capacity. I was here back in 2018, 2019, was general manager, which was not, it was just the management side of the theater, which was not involved in the artistic. And then prior to this, when I was we moved here from Nashville, Tennessee 13 years ago. And I worked for a couple theaters there where I worked in the management of the theater and ran in administration and ran the theater on that side.
Now, I imagine the tough part for you, Victoria, is the fact that in addition to doing all that, I also know you as an actor. I also know you as a director.
Yeah.
And out of all those many hats, and somehow, sometimes you're doing all of these at once, which is incredible. Do you have a favorite thing you like doing?
Well, I think my favorite thing is directing. I came to it later. I didn't realize that I would enjoy it. And then I was probably I was acting into my 30s and 40s before I realized that I really enjoyed directing and sort of just fell into it accidentally, doing some children's camps and things and realized that I really liked it. And that sort of slowly got me into directing adults and directing community and professional theater.
Now, I won't put you on the spot, but the reality is, I ask a lot of people who have been actors,
Mhm.
previously, and which do they prefer, and they say also directing, but
Yeah.
they're not being truthful to me, Victoria, because the reality is you don't have to memorize, you know,
Yes.
the parts. Yet I've seen you, didn't I see you in one not too long ago where you were directing, but then you had to jump in at the last minute to act in it also?
No, I think you're thinking of Jonathan Forster.
Okay, with Jonathan,
Jonathan
yeah.
has done that. I've luckily never had to jump in and act at a show. And it happens where a director or a stage manager has to jump in when an actor gets sick or something like that. Luckily, that I'm knocking on wood has not happened to me yet. I have had to do some walk-on roles, but they've been very small, nothing
Okay.
major for people. But Jonathan did step in for a major part a couple of seasons ago and had to memorize the whole part the week before and come in and step in for an actor who was sick.
Okay. But it's amazing. You talk about actors getting sick, and all the shows I've seen, so very few actually get canceled. It's amazing that even with COVID, even with everything that went on, shows do tend to go on. Because explain, Victoria, if you would, the factor to people who don't realize it, that you don't typically deal with understudies. You don't have other people waiting in the wings.
Yeah, it's very hard on this level, on a community theater, amateur theater level. Even though we do compensate our actors through audience tips, we don't pay them for rehearsals. And that's kind of, I think, where the difference is. On a professional theater, you can have understudies and swings because they're getting paid to come in and learn that show and rehearse that show, whether they get on stage or not. At our level, it's very hard to do that because even if we can guarantee them a performance, it's a lot of work and a lot of time to put in our case, 4 to 6 weeks or 8 weeks if you're doing a musical into a show to learn a part, maybe to get to perform one night or not even that much. Sometimes you're just learning it and just in case something happens. So that's really the difference on our level that we don't compensate you for rehearsals. And so it makes it very hard it makes us, we don't want to, I've had people do it before, where we knew they were going to have to step in, but it's a big ask for an actor, to learn a part, that maybe they're going to get to perform at one time, and have to do all that rehearsal time just for that one performance.
And aside from all the rehearsal time people put into it, and you sometimes mention it in the curtain speech, a lot of your actors are traveling quite a distance. It's not that we're all in Hendersonville. You have them from Greenville, you have them from,
We have them from all over the upstate and all over West North Carolina. As far away, I think Mars Hill, Waynesville, even beyond Waynesville occasionally. So we have people that come from all over the place, Black Mountain, that come here to act.
and to give them credit, it's also it's quite something in that it's quite a job, quite a drive, and the drive is no longer an easy drive. I don't know about you. I've gone to hate 26, but
Yes.
that's how people have to come into Hendersonville. And so before we talk about the current show you work on, Victoria, I have to give you a compliment in that at least the past couple of seasons have just been amazing. And the shows you choose, I wouldn't say are easy shows to do. You've done some amazing, and talk about the two that come to mind off the top of my head. You've done a beautiful job with them. Was a Young Frankenstein, which I just loved. And that wasn't a small little show.
No, no.
How many were in that show?
We actually, I think, ended up with about 20 people in the show when we got done. I think we ended up uh, losing a few people as we cast very early. So sometimes we lose some people
Right.
before we actually get into rehearsals. But we ended up, I think, with about 20 people in the show. And we knew when we picked it, it was going to be a challenge for us, technically. We have a small stage if you've never been here before. So to do a bigger musical where there is a lot of special effects, like in Frankenstein, or a lot of big sets, we have to get very creative in how we're going to do it.
And the other show that kind of knocked my socks off, you did the rock musical. What was that?
Oh, Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages. And that also didn't seem to be an easy show to put on. That was pretty ambitious. Uh, and so a lot of people do little 2, 4, 6-person musicals. But that was quite something. And again, which I loved about it, right? That I think you did have a live band on that, right?
Did have a live rock band on stage, and that was the first time we'd ever done that.
Okay. And again, I just love it that you did because I don't know about you, and we've talked about this, but I just love live music as opposed to canned music. Even if you have one piano player, to me,
Yes.
I don't know about you, but to me, it's makes a big difference. So talk a little bit about then the fact that you have certainly broadened your scope of things you do in terms of drama, comedy, musicals. And I've loved the comedies you've done. But let's talk about the upcoming show you're doing. And again, you chose one that has not been done too often in this area. And I
No.
think from a community standpoint, community theater, you're the only one I think I've ever seen do it.
Okay.
And what show is that since we're
We're doing
talking?
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. It's based on the 1967 movie that I think most people are familiar with that starred Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, and Sidney Poitier. And so there's been a new adaptation for the stage that was done in 2018. So it is a newer play, but it still takes place in 1967, very similar to the movie, but it's had some more modernization done to it that's actually made it a very different show in some ways. It still has a lot of the comedy of the original film in it, but there's a lot of drama in this version as well.
So how the changes were they made it more modern or how they change it?
They gave us a lot more. I think if you've seen the original show, or the original film,
Right.
there was a concern about getting too deeply into character backstory or into and keeping it very light and fluffy. I think they were very concerned. I have read this. They were concerned at the time about getting banned in the South.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
So there is this show, they sort of got into a lot more of the backstory of the characters, why they react to it's about, if you're not familiar with the show, a marriage between a young couple who is of mixed race and how their parents react to the situation in 1967. And I think this time we get to see why the characters react the way they do. There's still a lot of humor in the show, but you also learn a lot more about their backgrounds, why they feel the way they feel, and a lot more understanding about what has gone on in each family to make them feel and react the way that they're reacting.
And who's directing this?
I am directing it.
Well, that's why you said before that you're doing all these other things, but so kudos to you in your spare time. You're also directing this play as well?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay, so doing everything else, you're directing the play. And talk about how long the process is. How long have you been in rehearsal?
So we actually did this one a little bit faster than normal because we had the holidays in the middle. We'd started before Christmas with just a read through, and then we came back and we've only actually had up and running rehearsals since about 4 weeks on this one. So I've got a cast that has been just absolutely amazing, who showed up prepared and ready to go and has really delved into the work and has put together a show, a very good show that is ready for the stage in just an amazingly short amount of time compared to our normal rehearsal process.
And the way I guess you caught a break that you started serious rehearsals, I guess, after the hurricane.
After, yes, we started serious rehearsals. I think January 6th was our first serious rehearsal day.
Okay, so you passed the hurricane. Now, how many people are in the cast?
We have, oh gosh, that's a very good question. Um, I, 9 people in the cast.
Okay. What's exciting for me and perhaps some other people is
Mhm.
that in this play, and you've done that several plays you've done at Hendersonville, you don't always have the same old folks. You know,
Yeah.
in this one in particular, talk about it if you would. You have a lot of quote newcomers who have never been on the Hendersonville stage.
Yes, I think about half the cast is new with us this season. We actually we have been very lucky the last couple seasons. We do a season audition every year, and for the last couple years, we have been lucky that we've had about 150 people show up
Wow.
each year to audition for us. And because of that, and we see a lot of new faces every year. It's given us a chance to bring some new people in, and we are very open. We love having new people on our stage. We want people to come here and experience the theater that have not been here before. But also, I think it gives us an opportunity to work with new people and refine our process and get their opinions about how we're doing things and if they feel like things are going well and what we could change. So it's a learning process for us when we bring new people in as well. So we about half our cast is new for this show. Some of that is because of the casting requirements of the show. We have not been a very diverse theater in the past, and of course, the show required us to be that way. So we did need actors who would play African American actors for the show. So that also meant us bringing in some people that had not been on stage before with us. But also, we were lucky enough, like I said, to have a lot of new faces come in and audition for us this season who were very talented.
Now, on this show, do you have any people who've never acted in a show before?
I think everybody has got some acting experience of varying levels, but we have a wide variety of ages in the show as well. So we have people that have been acting for many, many years, their entire lives, all the way to I think our youngest cast member just graduated from college. So that kind of gives you an idea. And I think our oldest cast member is in their 70s. So it's a very diverse cast in age as well.
I'll give you a lot of credit, any director a lot of credit. In terms of you mentioned you had so 150 people came out for auditions for the various seasons. That must be perhaps the toughest part of your, or is it one of the toughest parts of your job to
Yeah, it's
choose
tough.
people?
Narrowing it down can be very difficult. Of course, as you're casting, you have an idea in your head of what a character, you at least have some idea of what you want a person, the kind of embodiment you want of a character, whether it's physically or sometimes you see something in somebody that you go, oh, I can kind of see that they could play this part. But also, it can be a little overwhelming just to see that many people over 3 days. And we do videotape every audition because people can start to blur together after a while.
I saw one theater, I won't mention the theater, But they did something I thought was kind of cool, is they had their auditions. I don't know if you've done this, but they had the callbacks the same
I
day.
saw that. I
You saw
saw
that?
that. I know it was Hart that did that.
Right.
I was very impressed by that. Hats off to them for making that happen. I wish I don't, we are not quite that organized yet. I
No,
wish
and
we were.
especially
Yeah.
with 150 people.
Yes, with
But
150 people.
but I love the idea. Do most theaters do that now? Videotape the auditions?
I think since COVID, more and more theaters are starting to do it. Obviously for a couple years, we were doing a lot of virtual auditioning. And so it made us have to get more technological in our auditions. And now, since we've all gotten used to watching, it doesn't take the place of a live audition, but it does help you sort of remember a person's performance or put a face to a particular monologue or a particular scene that you saw.
So in this show, again, I probably don't know a lot of names. Talk about your cast if you would, and who's who.
So our cast, I cannot tell you, I am absolutely thrilled by this cast. They have worked so hard on this show. So we have like I said, a wide variety of ages, a very diverse cast. And our newcomers in the show are Natasha Charles, who plays Mary Prentice, the mother of Dr. John Prentice, who is the Sidney Poitier character in the show. Our Rixa Clark, who is Joanna Drayton, who is the daughter, the young girl who's getting married. Pam Flosh, who plays Christina Drayton, her mother, and Rowena Strong, who plays Tilly, they're the maid of the family. They are all new to the theater this for this show. They've never been on our stage before, and they have fit right in perfectly with the other people that have been here and have just really been a great asset to the theater. And then coming back on the stage, people in the show that have been here previously, Kip Brown, who you've probably seen on stage several times last season. He is playing Monsignor Ryan, who is a friend of the family's, who sort of is plays the way he reacts to the marriage is the way we all would hope everyone would react to the marriage. He gives us that happy, actually being congratulatory for them instead of how the parents actually do react. Uh, Sarah Leatham, who was in our One Act Festival this past fall, she plays Hilary St. George, who is another employee of the gallery that the mother runs of the family, who gives us one of the more stereotypical reactions to what is going on with the marriage. Uh, Ronnie Pepper, who is
Okay.
well known in Hendersonville. He has been on our stage as a storyteller and was in Driving Miss Daisy prior to COVID. I don't think they ever got a performance out, but they did rehearse the show and got canceled for COVID. But Ronnie is the father of Dr. John Prentice, who is, like I said, the Sidney Poitier character. Doug Sparks, who also has been on our stage before, he's playing Matt Drayton, who is Spencer Tracy's part in the show. And then Elijah York, who is Dr. John Prentice, and he was also in our One Act Festival.
Well, let me
Uh,
ask you this, Victoria, in terms of those actors and yourself as well, what's your feeling about seeing the film before, during, after? Good or bad idea?
well, I told my cast that I did not care if they went and watched it since the script is so remarkably very similar in some places, but very different in many other ways. It does pull a lot of some of the more famous sections out of the film in some of the more famous lines, but it does vary and depart from it greatly in many other ways. So I didn't feel like it was going to impede them, or we obviously weren't going to have anybody get up on stage and try to be Katharine Hepburn or Spencer Tracy or Sidney Poitier. That was going to be a feeling, I didn't want them getting up there and trying to imitate a famous performance, and they knew that. Everybody was cast because they brought something different to it. So they knew that that was not their goal, and so I was fine with them watching it. I obviously watched it several times even before auditions because I wanted to know what people were going to come in expecting to see and what their expectations were going to be. So if you're a fan of the film, I wanted to make sure we were going to at least honor the spirit of that and what you would, if you were a fan, you were going to walk away and be satisfied with what you saw on stage.
As an actor and director, did you make it a point or do you make it a point to see a film?
It really depends on the show. Sometimes, yes, if I feel like there is backstory that I need or something that I need to glean from it. Sometimes I completely ignore it. It just really depends. It's really on a case by case basis. A director, I have a tendency to do a lot more research and look at a lot more source material, whether it's a film, books. I'll go and look at everything. A lot of times when I'm preparing to direct a show that it's been drawn from, whether it's, in many different mediums and forms, just so I can get a good handle on all the different references that are in there and where they pulled things from. But as a actor, it just really will vary greatly depending on how I feel like what I need for the performance.
One of the fun things I did, I've only been in a handful of plays. I was in Hands on a Hard Body, and
Yeah.
we saw a documentary before the show opened, the backstory. There was no musical version of it, but it's
Uh,
kind of interesting to hear the story behind it, you know.
and,
So this, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Had that been beforehand? It had been a movie, and then they did the show after, or they did the show first?
it was the movie was first. I think it was a screenplay that had been worked on and had changed. I think it had been a screenplay around for maybe 3 or 4 years before the movie was actually filmed. I So that had come first. And then the play, like I said, wasn't adapted for the stage. The film wasn't adapted for the stage until 2018. So quite a few years in between the film in 1967 and the play, the stage adaptation in 2018.
Is that unusual? I'm trying to think. There usually, isn't it usually the other way around?
Usually is, yes.
There'll be a show and then make a movie out of the show.
Hmm.
Right.
I think there is more and more of that going on now. Looking back at films and TV for source material
Right.
of things that haven't been done before on stage and turning into stage shows. I mean, if you look at things that are running on Broadway late now, like Death Becomes Her and
Right.
things, those are all things that are getting done the other way rather than the way we traditionally had done them in the past.
And so after the fact, we'll then have Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, the musical. We haven't seen that yet,
Guys, you haven't seen that yet.
I could
There,
see it.
it's interesting because there is some music in this show that we laughed at the end of the show, the last scene. It's almost turns into a musical because there's some singing that goes on stage.
But it's such a beautiful story too. It's just, I mean, I could see it as well. How about in terms of let me ask you, who should see this show?
I think this show is really, first off, I will say, even though this show takes place in 1967, it is as timely today as it was in 1967. Part of the reason we chose this show as a theater is because we felt like the division in the country right now is very strong, and that there are discussions going on right now about race and diversity and how people relate to each other that are probably just as intense as the discussions that we were having in 1967. So that's part of the reason we chose it. So I think anybody who is thinking about those things or is interested in how people relate to one another would enjoy this show. I think anybody who's interested in the direction that we're going in as a nation and would like to kind of look and see where we've been in the past and how that relates to where we are now would enjoy the show. I think if you're just looking for a wonderful romantic comedy, and this is one of those with a little bit of tension in it, you would also enjoy the show because it is still a Valentine's Day show. And at the end of the day, it is
Oh,
about love and marriage.
age appropriate.
Age appropriate, yeah.
For what age?
It is PG-13. So I would say 13 and up. It does have some adult language in it. It's mild, but it does have adult situations in it. There is a lot of discussion about prejudice and racism and bigotry in it. So we are calling it PG-13. So really, I would suggest it for ages 13 and up.
The thing about the show, which is so beautiful, is you'll find yourself walking out of there feeling good. It's just, I
Yes.
mean, I can't. I'm so excited you're doing this show. And in remaining time, Victoria, after this run is done, so you're directing and doing everything else on this show. And plus, I love watching you because you also handle concessions.
Yes, I work the bar a lot.
In the middle of everything, I'll see you working the bar, taking tickets. I guess in a community theater, you're going to do just about everything.
Yes, we do have a lot of people that come in and volunteer with us and help us out, which is great. But as for those of us that are here full time on staff, when we are here for shows, we know that we may have to jump in and help anywhere we need to.
And
So you'll
I've seen
see
you
us,
do that. You
yeah,
know,
you
just
see us on bar, on the front door, ushering wherever we're needed. And it's a great chance for us to get out and talk to people and meet the patrons and make sure that we're doing a good job in our customer service skills, basically.
and we'll give a shout out also to Tate because Tate tends to do the same kind of stuff. You know,
Yes,
I'll
my
see
husband. Hmm.
and Tate Albert, also a
Yeah.
very talented actor. I love watching him on stage. But when he's not acting, he's doing everything else there, right? He's working lights. He's doing
He runs a lot of lights and sound for us, and just basically anything, technically, especially that we need.
okay, just a very talented guy as well. And so in our meantime, Victoria, after this show is over, you just get nice thing about it, you just get coast out the rest of the spring and summer. You just have an easy time of it. Is that
We're
correct?
having an easy time. We are staying busy. Our really f this month, February, is when we kicked off. We were dark for January, so this is really the kickoff of our 2025 season. So after Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, we have our first concert for the year on February 22nd, which is a tribute to Paul Simon by the J. Lloyd Mashup, which is out of Asheville. Which is, we expect it to be a very popular show. A lot of people like Paul Simon and Simon and Garfunkel. So if you enjoy that music, it's Simon's music, you're going to see the entire music of his career, a very good show of that. And then following that in March, we have Empire Strikes Brass coming back again for the second time. One of my favorite bands in the area, and always a wonderful night of just they play covers, they play originals. It's everything you can imagine done by a brass band, basically doing soul, rock, uh, funk, everything you can think of. It's a lot of fun.
And by
Uh,
the way, we should just mention too, in
mhm.
terms of one of the great places to see concerts, it's your
Yes.
place because again, an intimate feeling. It's just a great place, especially for concerts.
Yes, we started doing concerts this is probably our third or fourth year doing concerts. We only have 117 seats, so there's not a bad seat in the house. And musicians love it, and so do the patrons because it is, if you enjoy music, you can come and watch a show, and it's more of a listening room experience. So you don't have people talking over the bands. You can really sit there and enjoy the music. We have people that get up and dance in the aisles or in front of their seats, and we encourage that. The musicians love it because they can see the audience, they can interact with the audience. And at the end of the show, there is a lot of people will go up and talk to the bands, a lot of interaction. It's just a really nice, intimate experience and a chance, to really see your favorite group or a group that you really love who doesn't normally play in Hendersonville, and to really get to interact with them one on one.
And so, any other shows then the remaining of the season? What else can people look forward
So
to?
after that, we have Life Sucks on March 20th through 30th, which is uh, an adaptation of Chekhov's Uncle Vanya, and I use that loosely because it really isn't. It varies wildly from the original script, although it does draw inspiration from that. It's an Aaron Posner play, which if you're familiar with his work, you kind of know exactly what you're getting into. It is a dark comedy. It is a lot of fun.
You don't
Uh,
know.
with a lot of audience interaction as well. So that is going to be a fun show. And then I guess if we're just talking spring, we do have our final for the spring is we are doing a Reader's Theater of Doubt, if you're familiar at all with that show, which is April 12th and 13th. And then we have Amanda Ann Platt and the Honeycutters coming back in April for our April concert. And then our May is Terms of Endearment and Songs from the Road play. And then Songs from the Road Band is our concert.
And so, folks want to get involved with Hendersonville Theater. You still taking, or you welcome volunteers all the time?
We take volunteers all the time. I think the best way to get involved with us, you can go on our website, hvltheater.org. There's a section called About Us and Support. You go to either one of those places, you're going to find information about how to volunteer with us. We love we always need help running shows, ushering, checking people in. If you want to come and train, you can learn how to work box office, you can learn how to work concessions. And then also need help just on a general daily, weekly basis, sometimes with projects we have around the theater.
And so you mentioned HVL theater.
Mhm.
The spelling of theater the correct way or the incorrect way?
We're spelling it the British way, so it depends on what you consider, but it's Theatre.
Okay, I kind of like that. Yet, what is it? Theater overall is still spelled ER, but the specific names of theaters are RE.
RE, yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, Victoria, certainly it looks like you'll be busy for the next couple of weeks, if not months, if not years.
Not yours. Mhm.
But anyway, I look forward to another great couple of months, great couple of years, and we'll have you on again. But thank you. I was getting you off the air. I think this is what, the 73rd time you've been on, or not?
73rd time, yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yes.
Not quite that many. Right. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank also my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and hopefully we'll get to see you in person sometime real soon. Victoria, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Blaine.